Hey, it's Legge from Dawgs, making you a smarter Georgia fan. I've got a great story for you right now. So I'm going to talk about the 2016 Kentucky game. What happened on Saturday was that Georgia's baseball team and Georgia's basketball team both won with walk-offs. Walk-offs are when you score the final run or point and you leave the field as a victor. Georgia has played, in Kirby's time, 5 games that have resulted in walk-off wins or losses. The most famous one, the Oklahoma win in the Rose Bowl. The most infamous one, or really the most famous loss, was the loss to Alabama in the national championship game. They also had a walk-off loss to Tennessee, a walk-off loss to South Carolina in 2016. The Tennessee lost in 2016. The South Carolina lost in 2019. I think I said 16. Let me tell you about the 2016 Kentucky game. So this game, Georgia was 4-4. They had lost 4 of their last 5 games, and it really was the time at which the younger guys on the team, Jacob Eason, Isaac Nauta, even more veteran players like Sony Michel, they all had to step up and play. Another young guy on that team, Rodrigo Blankenship, who did not have a scholarship at the time. Kentucky and Georgia went back and forth for a little bit, and then finally Kentucky drove the field with 9 minutes to go, nearly drowned out the fourth quarter clock, kicked a field goal. Roquan Smith made a huge play on 1st and goal to set it up to where Kentucky had a hard time scoring. So Kentucky ties the ball game at 24. Here comes Georgia, taking the ball at the 25. And this really was when Jacob Eason was at his best, in closing moments of games. You think back to the Missouri game in 16, the Tennessee game in 16. In this game against Kentucky, he drove Georgia down the field, hitting Wims and Terry Godwin with big plays. And why this game mattered so much for Georgia was that this really solidified their place moving forward. In fact, from that point until the end of the 2019 season, that combined they lost 8 games total. Before that game, they had lost 4 in one season, in 4 and 5 weeks, actually. So from that moment moving forward, Georgia really was a different program. 7 days later, they beat Auburn. They beat TCU to win the Liberty Bowl at the end of the season. But on the field after the game, you could, with what I do, you walk around the bottom of the field and the corridors and so forth a lot. And that game, Georgia really celebrated it in a way that you wouldn't think they would, wins over Kentucky. But that was a big moment for them, with Jacob taking them down the field, Nick with some big runs in that final drive, Sony with some big runs, and then finally Rodrigo, it looked for a second like he was going to have to kick like a 40-yarder to win it. But they got the ball down with 3 seconds to go, like right at the 7 or 8 yard line, and Rodrigo kicked a 25-yarder to win the game. And so why does it all matter? I think that was the moment that Georgia really found out how to win, which was sticking together and fighting through it. Adversity is so overused as a word in sports, but in this case, Georgia really fought through adversity. And this was not a good team. This was not a good Georgia team. They wound up 8-5. They lost to Georgia Tech. So this was not a good Georgia team. They lost to Georgia Tech, Vanderbilt that season. I mean, you don't get a lot of great Georgia teams that are blown out by Mississippi. So this was not a great Georgia team, but in Lexington, they found their legs in a way that they kind of had not before that. I mean, the win against Missouri was a big deal on the road. The win against North Carolina to start the season, those were big, no doubt. But from that Kentucky game forward, the program at Georgia has been different. I'm Legge for Dawgs, making you a smarter Georgia fan. Make sure to click to subscribe if you like what we've been talking about. We'll see you over on the website.